Netflix is promoting the third season of a show that is massively popular titled Heartstopper. And the star of this show, Kit Connor, is being billed as Gen Alpha's new favorite pinup. Essentially a gay icon for Gen Alpha. And if you were unaware, Gen Alpha refers to any human being born after 2012. Okay? So we're talking children aged under 14. Okay? Like actual children, not people who should be watching, you know, like graphic sex scenes, not people who should be receiving a bunch of discussion about their sexuality, be it in media, be it in school. But this is their target demographic for this show. Now that they're saying it's growing up with its audience, it's time to graduate from hand-holding and kissing scenes to full-blown sex scenes. This is the direction they're taking it. So I'm just going to read to you from this recent interview he did with The Times how Heartstopper made Kit Connor Gen Alpha's favorite pinup. Kit Connor's role in Netflix's Heartstopper has made him a household name with tweens and teens. The show, a PG version of young queer love, where hand-holding and the occasional kiss was as steamy as it got, has matured with him. Having become a Netflix top 10 hit in 54 countries, it has captured the hearts of wide-eyed Gen Alpha and Gen Zers with feel-good storylines. Season 3 is now upon us, and like Kit Connor, it's all grown up. He said, "I wouldn't say that we've outgrown the show, because the show is growing in itself. Most of the cast are in their early 20s now. They're quite obviously busting out of their school uniforms as they're thinking about university and navigating first sexual experiences. Fans will be pleased to learn that we see more of Kit Connor in every sense this season as the storyline allows for some pent-up sexual tension to finally be released."
So I guess, like, if we're grading on a curve here, is the point that at least they're not doing what they did in Euphoria, where they just make them high schoolers?
Well, I guess if it's the lesser of two evils.
Like, in a world of evil, is this the mildly less evil version of that?
Yeah, he was cast in the role at the age of 17, I presume, playing a character a couple years younger than himself.
Yeah.
So now he's in his 20s.
People in the chat are like cuties all over again.
It's literally that, yes.
Yeah.
And it's more so that they're looking for that child audience that creeps me the hell out. They're openly saying that's what they're doing.
They're not
right?
even aiming for adults.
They're going for
Yep.
children who are younger than the characters in the show, essentially. This notes they worked with the same intimacy coordinator since the first season of the show, which means they had an intimacy coordinator for kissing and hand-holding. But here is the most disturbing quote that Kit Connor gave in this interview. He said, "We've been taking baby steps. Season 1, he would be there making sure that we were comfortable holding hands, and now we're doing sex scenes. We shot a lot of footage for them. Not much actually ended up in the show, but we shot the sex scenes for about 7 hours." They shot sex scenes for this show for tweens for 7 hours straight, and just funnily enough, almost none of it made it into the show.
Yeah.
In fact, he makes it seem like none of it made it into the show.
I mean, maybe that's like they thought they were going to do it and then they decided not to after the fact.
It's just like, why would you even tell people that?
Well, I mean, actually that kind of connects to what we were talking about, because we went back to that study that resurfaced about how Gen Z doesn't want to see sex scenes in movies, and maybe that translates even farther down to Gen Alpha, and that Netflix looks at the data and says, nobody wants to see this, cut it.
Well, I don't know, because I'm not going to watch this. I don't know what made it to the final cut, but that could be part of the reason why. And as for Gen Alpha, in that same survey, they asked participants like 10 years old to 13 years old about how they felt about romance scenes instead of asking them about sex scenes. They also felt like there was too much of that. But nothing in regard to, you know, whether it's heterosexual or gay romance, which, you know, actually we should talk about that, because there is scientific evidence that heterosexual men feel disgusted and repulsed when they see two men kissing or showing physical affection. to the point where it's a similar like physiological response as when they look at rotting flesh and maggots.
That's like an actual
That's
study?
an actual, that is actual, I believe the science. I believe the science every time. But especially in regards to this, it doesn't, like sex sells, that doesn't sell. Depends on who you're selling it to.
Women have a different physiological response to two women kissing than men do to two men kissing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure they do. Yeah. It's heterosexual men find it far more repulsive to look at gay men showing physical affection. So they're just trying to train them out of it because that's problematic. Your biology, your physiological response is actually just being indoctrinated into you by the heteronormative patriarchy.
Well, do you believe that that's true? Do you believe that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the data will be different because it's been put into the culture that much?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can beat lizard brain level biology. Like that comes from thousands and thousands of years of like evolution. I don't think that that is just, you know, something you learn socially. But another example of this, I kept coming across headline after headline, just a barrage of headlines about gay romance and gay sex in Hollywood movies and TV shows. This one, Omar Apollo filmed a sex scene with Daniel Craig for Luca Guadagnino's upcoming film Queer. It's just called Queer in all caps. It's supposedly based on a book that in this interview he talked about how he had to go on a soup diet to lose a bunch of weight so he could look extra twinky.
So that Daniel Craig could be the...
I'm guessing. I'm just taking a wild guess. He lost like 20 pounds for this role.
Okay.
Because, you know, he said it was a lot of pressure to have a sex scene with Daniel Craig for this movie. But they also asked, was it sensual? What was the vibe? Tell me about it, bro.
I mean, wouldn't the point be it's work? It's not supposed to be that.
Oh, no, he said it was very sensual.
Okay.
It was very sensual. How did you prepare for playing a gay-ass role like this? Did you act more feminine? He said, we did a lot with makeup. I have feminine features, so I put blush on my cheeks. I wore eyeliner in a few scenes and light pink lipstick. All of this together, it's just... why is this receiving so much attention from Hollywood? Why is this the type of love story that they want to tell when literally no one wants to see it?
I mean,
it's like Bros, right?
These movies aren't designed...
a rom-com for gay people did abysmally bad in the box office, and they blamed straight people for it. But straight people in that moment told Hollywood, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see gay romance movies.
I don't think that there's much money to be made in most of it anyways. These aren't films that are going for long theatrical runs. Like art house films are going to have their own cult followings, and they've been making movies like this for a long time. They're not going anywhere. These movies are made with a different financial expectation than going to see the new Jurassic Park movie.
It's a vanity project for the most part.
Well, they are. And look, and to the actors' credit, a lot of them, these are the types of projects they seek out, right? So they want to do stuff like this because they think it's edgy, or they think that it's in some way challenging them at their craft. Whatever, that's fine. Like, do whatever you got to do. But I don't think you're going to see the day where a movie like that is played in the theaters the way that something like Fatal Attraction or something, you know, like romance or thrillers that had romantic entanglement storylines were like back in the 80s.
Well, they would just say, we're not ready for that yet.
Yes.
No, actually, not we. You're not ready for that yet. But in order to become ready for that culturally, we need to make people like you uncomfortable. That's the point of all of this, is making you uncomfortable. And that reminds me, last year, Pedro Pascal and Ethan Hawke starred in a short film titled Strange Way of Life, which was also a gay romance film. A queer Western drama exploring the reunion between two former lovers.
I remember
a lawman and a cowboy.
I remember people comparing it to Brokeback Mountain because of the Western element to it. In the chat, Nerdy Film Girl says, how do you guys feel about Brokeback Mountain? It's absolutely brilliant and should have won Best Picture. Look, there's just like that
I never saw it.
Those movies are just never going to be for me. Like that type of film is just never going to be the type of film that I'm going to go to. But to be fair, I have very juvenile tastes when it comes to films. I like to see the explosions, and I like to see the explosions. I'm the guy that the film nerd makes fun of in that skit. So I think right now Hollywood, for the most part, when you're putting out the big budget films, they struggle hard enough telling coherent storylines with traditional films that they're not going to be able to win large scale public sentiment with art house style films.
I'm just saying, like, first and foremost, stop trying to target children with this type of content, especially if it now involves graphic sexuality. But, you know, second to that, don't try to target me with it, because I don't want to see it either. Like, I'm just as disinterested in seeing that.
Look, there's like Kino Corner would like these movies, I'm sure, or would at least like to give these types of movies a shot.
Give them a chance. It doesn't mean like it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Kino Corner, give them a chance, right? Like, it's like there's different people go into films with different expectations and different preferences.
This is a top 10 Netflix show. This Heartstopper thing. Yeah. Like, this is as mainstream as it gets.
Okay.
And they're putting graphic sexuality into it.
Yeah.
With the very express aim of showing that type of thing to children.
Well, I mean,
no one is talking about this.
He's talking about how they believe that the audience grew with it, right? So that's another conversation.
It's kind of contradictory, because in different parts of the same exact interview, they were saying it captures the hearts of tweens.
Okay.
And he's Gen Alpha's favorite so-and-so. So I don't know, make up your mind. Are the fans of this show adults, or are they kids?
I mean, that would be a very interesting question to be able to ask the actual directors and producers and see what their answers are to something like this. A lot of times I feel like they just don't think about their answers that coherently. Mm-hmm. Like Hanlon's Law, never attribute to malice, which is more easily explained by incompetence. Like sometimes I think people just be saying stuff.
Well, after our discussion of, is Hollywood as evil as we think on Friday,
maybe
I'm leaning toward malicious.
No, look, maybe it's more
after Cuties, especially.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying in response to that particular interview, right, where somebody gives one answer that makes no sense and another answer that makes no sense, where they seem to contradict each other. Sometimes people just be saying stuff. But no, to say that there is no evil in Hollywood is obviously patently ridiculous.
The guy on Blue's Clues is growing up and maturing. So we should just put sex scenes in Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the first, when you mentioned
this is where that logic takes
when you mentioned growing up with your audience, that was the first thing I thought about, was when we had the conversation about Blue's Clues and growing up with your audience.
Yeah, just no.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media, and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.